Alright. Prose is also written or spoken language in its ordinary form without metrical structure, again, meaning that it does not have a metric structure to it like poetry would. Prose is also a form of language that exhibits a natural flow of speech and grammatical structure rather than a rhythmic structure as traditional poetry. So, prose would be like your normal book that you get from the library. Poetry is going to have specific little rhythms, like a song or something like that, that has a rhythmic pattern to it. Prose has more of a grammatical flow of a story feel to it, okay? Explanation is that a variety of expression is achieved through diction and sentence structure. So in prose, this is what happens. Not in poetry, in prose. You can express a variety of things throughout your prose writing or prose reading. Novels, essays, short stories, and most modern dramas are written in prose. That's it. Alright, so what we're going to do now is go to which paper first? The orange one. Thank you. I believe I can see. Alright. So the orange paper is your anchor chart for prose. It is elements of prose. That's what we're going to focus on, are the elements of prose. Now, next week we're going to focus on the elements of poetry, so don't get those two mixed up. The next week will be the elements of drama. But today and this week we're going to do elements of prose. We're going to start talking about characters, setting, dialogue, plot, point of view, mood, and theme. Now, some of those things sound familiar, don't they? Yes, they should. So characters are going to be the people and the animals, or people or animals that are a part of the story. Take the story, The Three Little Pigs, for example. Who are the characters? The three pigs and who? And the wolf. Alright? Moving on, setting. This is where the story takes place. The Three Little Pigs story takes place in all of the pigs' houses. And while the wolf is walking up and down the road trying to get to those houses, right? And he's going to huff and puff and blow their house down. Dialogue. This is a fancy word for what? Do y'all know?
Character.
Dialogue. Read what it says. It's what's the character say. Fancy word for what, Ryder?
Like, kind of like a saying, but like the best part of the movie, like the saying, good, like a famous speech.
You're on the right track. So dialogue is a fancy word for someone talking, okay? So dialogue would be the big bad wolf saying, I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house down. Or the little pig saying, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. That is stuff that they say in the story, okay? When we see quotation marks in a story, what does that mean? That they're saying it, right? That is dialogue, okay? So don't let that big fancy word confuse you. Dialogue just means that someone is talking. Plot. This is what happens in the story. Don't get it confused with setting. It's not where it happens, it is what happens in the story. So what happens in the Three Little Pigs? They all three build a different kind of house. One with straw, one with sticks, and one with bricks. And then this big bad wolf comes along and thinks he's going to have some bacon for supper, don't he? Well, guess what? He blows down the straw house. Little pig runs off. Blows down the stick house. Two little pigs run off. He goes to the brick house, and then what happens to him? He can't get in, and he ends up falling down the chimney and getting his tail burned, right? All right, so that's the plot. It is what is happening in the story. point of view, that is going to be who's telling the story, whether it be first person, second person, third person, whatever. We know that I, me, we, mine, you know, so and so. If it's talking like my stuff, if I'm saying it, that is first person, right? Third person is the all-knowing person. Do you remember my story about, hold on, baby. You remember my story about Buster and me saying that the person that was telling this story is probably somebody that was looking in the window the whole time, watching it all happen, right? It wasn't Buster telling the story, and it wasn't me telling the story. It was a narrator telling the story, right? Where they said he, she, they, you know, things like that. All right, the Three Little Pigs story would be third person. There's a narrator telling that story. It's not the big bad wolf saying, I went to this pig's house, then I went to the second pig's house, then I went to the third pig's house, and then I jumped down the chimney and got burnt. It's not saying that. It says this little pig and then that little pig and then this big bad wolf came along, okay? It's talking about everybody else, not themselves, right? That is third person.
I'm confused on that part you said. We knew he jumped on the chimney.
That's not important.
He did.
Watch out.
Some people tell it different, like she told it the chimney, and then sometimes they say that he didn't go down the chimney. What is that?
Dialogue, that is when they're saying something. Like, that's when they're talking. If I'm telling my story, and my story says, I was walking through the house, and then I said, hey Buster, come here. What part of that would be me talking? Hey Buster, come here, right? That would be my dialogue. That's what I said. Okay? Alright. The mood of the story, go ahead, Marley. I'm sorry, buddy.
If your point of view, like, say we did a hard quiz and somebody thinks it's easy, but the other person thinks it's hard.
That, yes, in a way, but not the literary sense. So, point of view in the literary sense, meaning school-wise, point of view is that. Now, if I'm saying, like, from my view of things, this is easy, and it may not be to others. That could also be opinion. Okay. All right. Mood, the feelings that the author creates, or the feeling that you get when you read the story. So when you're reading The Three Little Pigs, do you feel happy, sad, excited? Do you feel like you could be laughing, or what, you know? What do you get when you read The Three Little Pigs?
You're happy.
You get happy. I kind of laugh a little bit because it's a funny story, you know? Things like that. Now, that's what mood means. If you're reading a sad story about a little boy who was playing with his best friend and they had a dog and then the dog passed away, is that happy or sad? That's sad. The author wrote that story to make you feel sad, right? Now what if you read a story about a little boy and his best friend and they got a dog that grew old with them and they had lots of adventures together? Happy. That's the mood that you get from reading that story, okay? So that's what mood is. Theme. We should already be familiar with theme. This is your lesson learned. What is the lesson learned from The Three Little Pigs?
Don't break into me.
Don't be breaking into somebody's house if you don't belong there. I mean, I don't know what's on the other side of that door. No, but really, the theme of The Little Pigs, girls, the theme of The Three Little Pigs would be, don't go, don't go barking up the wrong tree. We'll say it that way. Y'all know what that means?
Yes.
Don't go barking up the wrong tree, all right?
Don't actually.
Stay on the right path, not the wrong path, okay? All right, so you can keep those out for now, because you might can use them to help us with our white paper. So go ahead and grab the white sheet of paper What you need, Amy? Does anybody have a pencil that Amy can borrow? Bree, let Amy borrow a pencil, please. What you need, Cameron? You need a pencil as well? No? You sure you don't need anything? What you need? Huh? Yes. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to read this story, and it's called The Ribbon, and we're going to label these boxes, and there's some at the bottom, you just can't see them because I don't have my thing moved up yet, but we're going to label all these boxes with the elements of this prose, okay? So, Connor, read the first little bit for us, starting at one day.
One day at my house, my grandma came to visit. She told me a story about when she was a little girl and her family were so poor that one of her favorite things was this ribbon. It was light pink, soft, and was made of satin. Her mom got it when it was used to wrap a gift that her boss had given her as a thank you for cleaning her house so well.
Okay, stop there. Well, Grandma took really good care of that ribbon, and one day she gave it to my mom, who quickly transformed it into a bookmark. Do you remember that, Mom? I asked. Oh, honey, how could I forget? I knew the story behind it, so that pink ribbon was just as special to me as it was to your grandma. Well, the day came that my mom was all grown up, and she took that ribbon right out of the book she was reading, and she gave it to me. By then, the color had faded just a bit, and the edges weren't sharp and crisp as they once had been, but I still treasured that pink ribbon, and I put it to good use. I tied it around the neck of my favorite teddy bear, Tessa. My favorite bedtime bear still wears that bow proudly. Even though I don't sleep with her anymore, maybe one day I'll have a daughter too. I wonder what she'll do with our pink ribbon. Alright, so this story's about Grandma getting a ribbon, and she passed it down to her daughter, who is this little girl's mama, who passed it down to her, and this little girl's hoping one day that she's going to get to pass down the pink ribbon that has been in their family for so long. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to label these boxes, so I can just say box 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. So let's start here at this one. Now it's going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then the 3 at the bottom, 5, 6, 7. I'm just not moving it right now. What, Connor? Not yet. Alright, we ready? Alright, number 1, the box is pointing to the word house. Remember what your elements are. What element of prose is this box, Connor?
Setting.
This is the setting. What is the setting? Is it that whole sentence or what?
The house.
The house. This is happening at her house. So I'm going to write the word setting right there.
Can I get a piece of lead?
Does anybody have a piece? What size is it, Marley?
Yeah, I got the same. I got that
Oh,
one. I got the same one.
All right. No, Candy. Give her a piece, please. All right, guys. Thank you. Number 2. This box has 2 arrows coming off of it. 2 arrows coming off of it. What 2 things is this box pointing at, Jay?
Grandma and Mom.
It's pointing at the words Grandma and Mom. What are Grandma and Mom? Rayleigh?
Characters.
They are characters. Very good. Now, are they the only 2 characters in this story?
No.
Who's another character?
The dog.
the daughter, the little girl, and there's actually one more. Ryder.
The teddy bear.
The teddy bear could be one, yeah, okay, but the one I'm looking for, Amy? Nope. Kenzie? Nope. It wasn't the mama. You're thinking that the mom is the one that gave it to grandma, but it wasn't mom that gave it to grandma. It was who? The boss. It was the boss that gave it to grandma. So yes. So grandma would be a character. Mom would be a character. The boss would be a character. And the girl herself. I'm just gonna circle mine because it doesn't.
And the teddy bear.
And the teddy bear too. Okay. All of those would be characters, or could be characters. All right, number 3, don't let this one trick you. It's pointing to the word how. However, is it just talking about the word how? Because is how helpful? Bree, what's it wanting us to look at? Not the setting. The saying, yes. The saying of it. What's that fancy word? It's wanting us to look from here to here, all the way to the end. We're looking at like the little quotation marks right there. Okay? What is that fancy word, Kenzie? Dialogue, which means what? That they are saying something. Very good. So I'm going to write dialogue.
Why did that look called D-I-A-L-O-G?
Because that's how the English gods wanted it to be spelled.
No, you spelled it.
D-I-A-L-O-U-G-E.
I
Dialogue.
thought it was L-O-G.
Is it?
G-U-E.
Oh, sorry guys. Y'all know I can't spell. G-U-E. Okay, dialogue. Alright, and number 4, it is pointing to Isle and Ma. What in the world could this mean, Camden? Not the plot, but the... Nope. Journey, help him out. Forgot. Tasia. The point of view, very good. This is trying to give you the point of view. It's telling you words that are of what person? Y'all know, is it first or third person? Who? First. It's first person because it's saying mine, ours. It's talking from a personal point of view, right? All right, very good. So I'm going to put point of view. I'm going to write point of view and no, this is just round circles and stuff to show you what we're looking at. I'm going to actually go under it. How to see? And I'm going to write first person so I can remember what I'm looking at when I look at this. Let me know when we've got all of this written down. We're good? We can move on. We're good? Yes, ma'am. About 10 minutes. Too late. Okay. All right, let me move this down and then we'll get going with 5, 6, and 7. Alright, so number 5, sorry. Number 5, 6, and 7. What, Ryder? Yeah, I know. Okay. The question number 5 says, what happens in the story or the storyline? Now, I don't want you to tell me the answer to this question based on our story. I want you to tell me what the element is of prose that tells you what happens in the story. Journey? element that says what happens in the story? Plot. Very good. So this would be plot. Now, what is the plot of our story? What happens in this story? Camden? The ribbon, there's a special ribbon that gets passed down. So I'm going to put ribbon gets passed down. Okay? The ribbon gets passed down. Number 6. The feeling that the author is trying to convey or give. How the author is trying to make you feel is what? Did you want to answer number 6? Well, why aren't you raising your hand? The feeling that the author is trying to get you to feel, Jacob.
Happy.
Happy, but what is the element?
Oh.
Mood, very good. So the element is mood. And I'm going to say that the mood of this story is, like Jacob said, happy. I don't feel sad when I read this story. I feel pretty happy. Yes, Kim? Oh, you know number 7? The author's message or lesson to be learned. What is the lesson learned? Element. Not from this story, but the element, Camden. The theme. Everybody agree? Yep. Alright, the theme. Somebody tell me, what do you think the theme of this story is, Ryder?
Life goes on.
Huh?
Life goes on.
Life goes on, passing things down. We kind of said in the other class that yes, life goes on, so remember the important things, right? Hold on to those memories.
That's what I hold on. Nothing else.
Pizza. Life goes on. Alright, everybody got it?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to write the life goes on, or you don't necessarily have to write what happens in that story, but it's good to have examples from worksheets like this that you do. That way when you pull these back out to study, and you're confused on, well, what was the mood? What really is theme? How can I use finding a theme in a story? How do I even do that? And then you see, oh, the mood is happy. Well, then you go back and read the story and say, oh, yeah, that made me feel happy. So that's what that is. So that's how I can do it in other texts, okay?
Basically, it's that.
I do.
Because the grandma died, and the mama,
Okay, that's just something that happens.
it's not happy and sad though.
Right. And to me, I would consider it more happy than sad. All right, guys.
Happy sad. Happy sad.
Happy sad.
Oh, I kind of wish there was a word.
All right, we need to go to the restroom. All right. It's sappy. All right, table 1, line up, guys. Leave your things on your desk.